Thank you for having me here today, and thank you for that introduction, Janet. That was lovely. I'm not Luke Kennard, but I understand that we're both Greek Orthodox, so I kind of might slot right in, maybe. I would prefer to hear in 2 minutes, but I'll do my best. I'm going to open with a translation, not from Greek at all, but from German, from the High German of Goethe. It's a piece from a play that he wrote. It's the opening of the play. It's called Epigraph. War is not ended by desire for peace. The man of ambition wants everything. He succeeds and shows how in fighting and thinking his enemy is weak. Power and paranoia are the same thing. The world is crowded with these beasts, sickened by their ceaseless births. The end of days is threatened from the first. The poet seeks to relieve this fate, which, surging and utterly formless, knows nothing of order or progress, flattening everything under its weight. Here art in love and in duress, in song, in speech, in dance, undertakes through a shared and common spirit to seize the chaos and unfurl it. This next poem is called Mucius thrust his right hand into the flame. And it's a phrase I read in Goethe, who knew it from Plutarch, which means kind of courage, to have courage. That should have been our life. Hotel rooms in Paris and Dresden, a borrowed space in Athens or Istanbul, something of the poetry we read about in novels. We want to say a decision was made to turn against it all, but where was it made and when? We love the museum spaces and the old masters, the self-portraits as too pale David. There was nothing that was not seen and seen too. The city streets, the rambling hours, the Parc des Chaumont. Mucius thrust his right hand into the flame. There is no decision, there is no turn. The hand is burned. The house, the mortgage, the children running through the Flowmarkt on Mauerpark, or shouting over breakfast in West Didsbury. I can't tell them what is coming. I really can't, they're sitting right there. This is called Poetry and History, according to Goethe. From here, I can't hear what he's saying. Philoctetes was 3 plays he started, 1 extant. I got up and walked over to the river. Who needs all this teaching in the celluloid realm of literature, right? I have no patience for Eckermann. He writes out every word in his pale, long hand, his expressive jowls, his yawning and attention to detail. Odysseus, Diomedes. I hated them. I won't lie about their credit ratings, their mock exam scores, their reliability. They're all dead now, and who has to live with these disguises? Not the everyday obscurity, but hiding of the kind poets call out. Wouldn't you like to know? The funny thing is, Eckermann's notes were me. Variations, watching a blackbird pecking at the ground by the riverside. I'd leafed through his papers when he ran off and seen myself so often I was ready to shout foul. Well, foul, let's go. This writing and my life have the same end, a bonfire beside a river in South Manchester. 2. Or they don't. There are island, whitewashed doors, behind which damaged men, not Eckermann, not me, are sleeping. They spend days sunning their wound, listening to the same Pharoah Sanders record, reading the liner notes like a holy book. God, I'd love to see them now. One little look at their flesh in the sun. Why shouldn't I restore them? Begin by the river, a blackbird pecking at the ground. This is called The Death of Palamedes. Palamedes is a Greek hero who's not in the Iliad. And there's a great many theories. He was one of the heroes at Troy, but he's not in the Iliad. There's a great many theories as to why that is, mostly because they think it would embarrass the other heroes that he was there, because the Greeks, he's a Greek and the Greeks kill him because he's too honorable for even the Greeks. And it begins with an epigraph from Euripides. You killed him. You killed the wisest man, the not once pain-giving nightingale of muses. This wasn't a quiet time at all, but I have a few good memories of it. The drive, the car parked down the lane leading to the Aeromodeling Club's field. The baby was asleep and we stopped to talk about the phases of our misfortunes and the war. But way leading on to way got us nowhere. You turned off the engine. The music low, we looked for anything in the air beside the countless birds and found nothing. The war would never end. We'll step on ground and mark some hero's grave, he said. But I added, the ground does not contain heroes only, softly and too late, because that is my way. One of my favorite things in the world is the idea, which probably doesn't exist in our time, of poets meeting politicians. If you can imagine such a thing, like Keir Starmer coming to Manchester demanding to meet Caroline Duffy, that kind of thing. Like, yeah, exactly, is my point. So Napoleon called Goethe to him, and they had breakfast. And very favorite, the poem is called Voilà un homme. This is what Napoleon said, here's the man, when he arrived. Voilà un homme. One. He keeps hearing, Goethe, you are getting worse. But he wants more. A wooden chair that doesn't wobble, a table with breakfast, eggs, beef, lentils, some color in Christiana's face. There was a point in his life he perceived himself of great importance. The French emperor summoned him. Their meal, I pieced together, raised many questions. Did he write by the fire in winter? Yes, he wrote by the fire. Did a flash of lightning strike him? Yes, as on the borderlands between two nations. Must poetry weaken everything? Yes, by necessity. They agreed with each other, even though once the meal was over, never met again. Still, Goethe wondered, had the convergence changed him the way others supposed? He had always eaten breakfast. The difference in him, by which he meant the necessity, is his memory clings to the pistol and the cannon, if we are being crass, and we might be. Better. When two armies sight each other at an uncrossable border, resembling each other, their goals the same. Two. In the drawing of us together, he is older, and I am in my mid-40s, my beard a half-century too early and too short. We were discussing the acoustics in Hagia Sophia, while a bird whistled fragmented variations on the hymn Nemesis outside the window. I didn't understand. But he is dead, and somewhere my chest collapses. It is absurd, I know, to think of that moment we shared. But absurdity, when it becomes real, is lightning striking. Our moment, the drawing only I have seen, when poetry weakens everything. This opens with a quote from Diogenes Laertius, who was a he wrote the Lives of the Philosophers very famously. It's just the strangest quote I'd ever seen, so I thought I'd write a poem about it. For the Egyptians tell us Hephaestus was child of the Nile, and philosophy began with him. I could have written those books. It was a few years ago, solitudinous. I found more than one way into what can be called the arrival on the scene. I stuck out my nose, shook the dust from obscure history, and was more cruel than gentle. It reminds me that if, as Egyptians believe, philosophy began with Hephaestus, then the first moment in Homer of principle is Book 8, Golden Ares and Aphrodite, as the poet sings the story, trussed together in chains. A scheme cooked up to shame. Invention loves desire, but desire brings home war. The scandal settles. Lovers return to the woods, or else drift into the language. From their footprints comes our understanding of end. The books don't need writing. The gods aren't immoral, they're teaching. Look, the eagle covers its eyes with one wing. I'm going to close with a poem about a pre-Socratic philosopher by the name of Epimenides. We don't have to know anything about, it's fine. But I can tell you very briefly that he's the model for Rip Van Winkle, really, right? He was a philosopher, and his dad told him to get some sheep, and he went for a walk, and he fell asleep and woke up, and it was years later. which I think is just, that's how it should be, isn't it? Epimenides rises. The fog blocks the bare branches normally visible through the window this morning. The worrying fog, Epimenides. Forgive me. The lesson you had planned would suit the time of year otherwise. Spring, bright. Instead, young people, controllers in hand, crowd around their houses, half lost, true enough, holding dreams both hokey and languorous. Nothing works. They laugh or frown or wish time away, full of vigor, and when I say, here is Epimenides, who stepped out of the road at midday and fell asleep in a cave, live, listening to your worries, they know all about you. He was searching for a lost sheep. He didn't find the sheep. He fell asleep, and when he woke, there was no sheep, no father who sent him away, no family farm, excuse me, and his connection to all he knew severed. He hung around cities a while, Knossos, Heraclio, later Athens and Rome. But when they beat him for wearing the wrong colored jersey, he turned blue, met someone, settled down, until everyone went away again, and he was alone in the house, stripped bare, the house that is. I'll try to sleep one more time, he said, and found himself here. You see, they know everything. A handful could use your name even, although they don't mean the scrolls or papyri, your building of the Argo in 6,500 verses, lost, but Euripides read it as a boy. Nor the evidence of the plague cities you purified by diverting water supplies or just relocating grave sites. You were standing in the doorway and all the sickness cured, minor, historical, the restlessness and the anxieties relieved, everything we might talk over. It was written and lost and not enough. Sleep is surrender. And you walk around surrendering, afraid charm, sashaying under the city center's shop awnings in your chlamys, your Birkenstocks with socks, your Marvin Gaye records in a tote bag. That is what I said, Epimenides. I take you seriously. And they threw plastic bottles at me. They're like robins flitting from one branch to the next. Well, worse. Because whatever you are, divine, great, throwback, it shocks them. They aren't having it. Not now when stories of your years asleep are harrowing, a miscalculation, an absence before the clever vanguard. But not for nothing did you step away. That's the point they miss, Epimenides. Positioned between two ends of the thread, you live in anyone who reconnects. Your fibers are the perfect legacy and are the same thing whether frayed or not. Thank you very kindly.